Hello there. I'm going to create a video to show you how to use a database from Visual Studio and how to access data from it, because we are going to be needing it to access data stored in a database in our window forms, to show the data from the database in our window forms. We are going to be working with my Microsoft SQL Server, but you will see that it's very, very similar, and that with my MySQL, that is what you, I think, what you used last year, and you have been using in all the other modules. There are just a few changes that we will comment, and you will get used to them quickly and easily. Okay, first to say that Microsoft Visual Studio has got by default installed a SQL Server Express installed. In fact, if you go to your control panel and you check your installed programs, you will see that between all the stuff here, SQL Server, you see there's an instance. You haven't installed it. You installed it when you installed Visual Studio. And by default, it's like a Microsoft SQL Server 2016. Okay, it's a copy of 2016 that is integrated with Visual Studio. So yeah, you don't need to do anything else, just to use it. Okay, let's see how to use it from Visual Studio. We don't even need to start any project or create any project. We just click Continue with Code. Without code, sorry. And if you see, the first thing we have to do is to view this window here, SQL Server Object Explorer. Yes, this window here. We can pin it, and here, well, it should appear. Okay, the SQL Server. Okay, this is the servers, a list of the servers that are have been added to this to access from this local machine. Okay, and by default there are these two ones. This is the default one, Microsoft SQL Local DB. Okay, this is the default and the one we have to use, and this is a copy that uses Microsoft for internal purposes. So you can add another servers if you want another instances of servers, or if this one doesn't appear, you can add it, like saying add SQL Server, going to the local, okay, and you see it's gonna be like here. All right, we will get the default credentials for Windows authentication. This is gonna use our Windows account to authenticate to the server. Okay, although we could use SQL Server authentication, but we will see that in another lesson later. Our username, this will be your username from Windows. Okay, and no password, because it's gonna use the internal password from SQL from Microsoft. Okay, so if it doesn't appear here, you just click here and say connect, and it will add it here. Okay, it's already added. Okay. So from now on, okay, remember we work with this one, local DB. This is the machine name, like localhost. It will be like localhost /ms SQL local DB. Okay, if you see here, the version server is the 13.0400. Okay, and it's in this machine, running in this machine. Okay, so this is a local SQL server. Okay, what can we do here? All right, so we can create. Well, here we can see and check what databases we have, or we can create new databases and make queries to tables of the databases. For instance, what we can do is we're going to make as an example, add a new database. All right, so the new database, I want to make an example. For instance, person games. Okay, the database location. Okay, the databases are going to be stored in files. Like with the extension, with the two extension MDF, I think is the extension, and this database in particular is going to be stored in here. Okay, it's useful to remember where it's going to be used. So app data in my user, app data, local, Microsoft, like this. Okay, we will see now. Person games. Okay, it's going to be like this one. All right. Now you can see there's a lot of subfolders in the tree. So we have here we're going to have our tables and our views we have our programmability. Here we're going to have our SQL storage procedures that we will use some. You will know what it is. The other parts we will see. Okay, we won't use them. Tables and programmability usually. Just to check that a new file has been created. So we will go to the my users, SPDVI, and app data, local. So this was like Microsoft, I think. SQL Server local DB. Okay, instances. Okay, my SQL local DB, and here it should be okay. You see these two files, person games, MDF and LDF. This is the database. Okay, the files where this database is stored. All right. You made one to take notice of this because we could have some problems in the future with that, and we should usually know where these are stored, where these files are located in the local server. Good. So good. Let's create a table. By the way, okay. By default, you see it's no table. Well, there are always system table, but this table we should never use them. There are also system databases with security about the server. So to create a table, just right-click, add a new table, and we have here a design. Okay, we open the design and the code. This we can unpin it. Oh, sorry, unpin it, and we will just see where we can write directly SQL in the code, TSQL scripting language, which is basically SQL with some variants like from Microsoft, but we usually can use the designer mode. For instance, here I'm going to create a person table, so I will click here like person, it will be the name. Whatever thing I change here is going to be updated in here, okay? And whatever thing I do in here is going to be updated on here, okay? So the name of the table will be person. In SQL, all the tables should have a prefix, which is DBO, or another DBO, which is the schema of the database. It's called the schema, but you will see that this is a difference with MySQL, is that DBO is going to be always before, separated by a dot, before the name of the table. Don't worry about the square brackets in the names. Okay, this is like using backslashes in MySQL. It's just for if this name was a reserved word of MySQL Server or whatever. Okay, by default it uses the square brackets, but there's no need if you are not using any table. For instance, I can say name. Okay, name, yes, is a reserved word. So if I want to make it a field of my table, I should write it in the. But this is not recommended. Okay, it's better to use. Okay, so like first name. Okay, names like that are not reserved words or keywords in SQL Server like that. Okay, as I said, this will be in MySQL. This will be like backticks, so single quotes, backslash, or single back quotes. Okay, this we will do this in MySQL Server. You remember in SQL Server they use like this syntax, but no worry about that. It's gonna be appearing, but you don't need to if you don't have any reserved words. Okay, for instance, let's create our first name for the tab, and okay, we have here, we define the name of the property or of the field, and here we have the data type. Data types are basic data types in SQL, as there are always, but some specific for this. For instance, we have the nvarchar. Okay, for strings, we have to match the properties with, later in our code we are going to match with the strings. We will use nvarchar, which can be, it's just a string of several characters as much. So I can put max, and it will be like I can store a string here quite long, 2 million and whatever characters. But this is not recommended because the database will be eating too much resources that we don't need. Okay, for a first name, so maybe it's 30 characters. All right, you can say allow nulls, null or not null. See that what is changing here when I click modify whatever thing is just updating this row here. All right, so okay, now let's say the last name, okay, and varchar 50 by default, okay, not null. Let's say the birth date. Okay, for dates we are going to use date time 2. Okay, this is the most modern and most versatile date. Okay, or we're going to allow nulls, and so date time 2 as the data type for birth, and let's say like email. Okay, like an varchar like 500. Okay. Characters. All right, we will have here the definition of a table, which is in here. See, that's been defined by default a primary key, which is here, like keys. You say the primary key, it's the ID. It's been automatically with this key in here, but it's been automatically created. It's an int. Okay, it's an int. It's not auto increment. We will see later how to increment things. Okay, so we have our first table, and now this is the definition. But to store it into the database or to create the script and to create the table, we need to update. Okay, to click update. So it's preparing the script. Okay, and I just say update database. All right, and it's gonna be the create table DBO person with a definition, like the definition. Well, it's gonna execute this script. It's here, create table. It's gonna execute it, and if everything goes all right, we will have a new person table. Yeah, here, which we can now see the columns. Okay, with the designer and the data type and nulls and wherever, and see the keys, the constraints, all that things we are used to see. Okay, let's create another one. Okay, if I close this, I can add a new table. I'm going to add a games table. I will say ID of the game always. Okay, default is the primary key. I am going to say also, yes, if I go to the properties window, I want this ID to be auto increment. What will be in MySQL auto increment. So here it is called identity, and for that we have to go to the properties of the column with the column selected. okay? And you see general ID, allow false, data type int, data value description, data designer, all right? And if we see, if you go here, identity specification, if we say identity is identity, yes, true, okay? It will be, you see here, primary key identity, it would say that it will automatically increment, okay, the number of the ID. So it will be an auto increment, basically. The increment will be, we will start in the number 1, and the increment, it will be incremented in 1 by 1. So it's just a different name they are giving it here. Okay, let's create now the name of game. Okay, it's gonna be an nvar char 50, for instance, no nulls. Okay, and the description. Okay, also nvar char like 500 char characters. Okay, we allow null. Okay, just with that we can update it and update the database. Update the database, so we have 2 tables created now. Good. Okay, let's now gonna insert some data. So if I right click in any of the tables, yes, I can do several operations like rename it, delete it, or everything, and I can see and I can watch what I had before, like view designer. It's like the designer and the code, or if I say view code, it will see the code. Okay, but now what I want to see is to view the data. It shows a table, and I can insert data in here. Okay, we are in games, so remember in games ID was a auto increment, so we don't need to set it in anything. It will start one, and name of the game, for example, we will say poker, and description is cards game. Okay, the description should be better, but okay, where 4 players aim for each other's money. Okay, a description, whatever. And you see, an ID is being identical. Okay, let's insert another one. It's like, for instance, a chess. Okay, the description, board game strategy. Okay, so the ID is automatically, and another one, for instance, like the Mahjong, I think it's written like that. Okay, like Chinese ancient solo game. All right, so we have now 3. These are inserts. That means that when I click intro in this, I don't need to click save or whatever. They are automatically inserted into the table of the database. So if I close this and I open again, they are already inserted, as usually in databases. You know, databases, when I make an insert, okay, it's already stored there, unless I can, okay. I could now delete rows or modify or whatever from here, from this editor, data editor. Good. Okay, let's populate some persons, like view data. Here the null is not an auto increment, so I have to write it. So, but I can write. I'm free to write whatever I need. For instance, a number, whatever. Okay, first name, Mike Garcia, birth date, 2020. Whoop. Okay, we will talk a lot more about dates, because it depends of the collation and the language of SQL Server. You will say that it is installed in a language usually in US English, and the dates are different in US English than in European English or Spanish. I usually recommend you that if you insert it like that, you do it in SQL format, in the standard SQL format, that is year, month, and day. So 12/04, okay, my birth date, and you see that it's automatically getting it with the correct format. Okay, so this server has been installed correctly, not in the United States date format. So, and my email is garcia@fmail.com, for instance. Okay, let's create another one. 502, bang. Okay, let's say from birth date will be maybe 1999. (10:02). Okay, be thrown at. Good. We have 2 users now in a database. We will do it that. Okay. We are doing this in here just to show how we can modify or insert some databases, but we will usually work with the database from our source code. Okay, from our Windows forms or from our user interface. We will work with the data and in the front end or the back end. But this is just an example. Okay, so we have the games and the person data. Okay, what else? All right, I want to create a relationship between these 2 tables, because I want to create another table which is a relationship between the tables. Okay, I will keep the ID, and I will make the ID to not complicate it very much. The ID, it's gonna be identity, true, and then I'm gonna create here. Okay, I'm gonna relate which person plays what game. Good, and for instance, I'm going to say that the person with ID, let me just new vertical group, the person with ID and a new vertical group. Okay, here I have my data more clearly, and here I have to say, okay, here I'm going to create like person ID. Okay, so it is gonna be person ID. This is an int. Okay, so I'm gonna make an int. Okay, allow nulls no, because this is a database. A primary key, and a game ID. This is also an int. Remember, we are creating a relationship here in this table between these 2 tables, person and games. So the game's ID is also a one. So it's going to be what person creates one game. Okay, and all right, and here I'm gonna like say add some foreign keys. Okay, foreign keys, if you remember, is the data I insert here and here must exist before here. Okay, in these tables. Otherwise, it will give an error. It won't allow to make an insert in this table. So to create a foreign key, either I write it here, okay, or I can do it like this. Okay, I need foreign key. I'm gonna create the foreign key for the person ID. Okay, I'm gonna link this field here with this column here. All right, you have to remember this, and you will also work in it in access-a-dades and asynchronous access-a-dades. So I can say add new foreign key, and a foreign key you say table to table. Okay, so it's gonna see table So it's gonna see. Well, first let's give a name to this table of the relationship. It's gonna be person game relationship. Okay, it's gonna relate with what one person plays this game, and the other person plays another game, and the other person plays another game. So this relationship we're gonna call person game. So the foreign key is from this table, from person game to the table person. Okay, so I click here and see here the T-SQL has already created the constraint, the name of the constraint that is a foreign key, and I have to say in what column of person game I want to make a foreign key, like it is gonna be person ID. Yes, so I just say person ID. Okay, remember these they are created by default, but if it's no no reserved word, I can just okay. To table, what table am I gonna refer? Person, and what column of the person table do I have to check if the inserts here match one of the ones that exist? It's like the ID. Yes, so that will be how to define a foreign key or a foreign key or a constraint between the person game and the persons table. All right, good. I have to do the same for the game ID, because with game is referring to another table which is exists in our so it will be the same. I will just add a new foreign key, okay, like here, and do as I said, or I can like add a comma here and do the same like here, write it like that. Okay, FK, okay, person game to game. In this case, okay, for foreign key, okay, and this is important. This is the parentheses are compulsory, are mandatory. Yes, so it's gonna be the field game ID references the table person. No, sorry. Games and the field ID. Yeah, perfect. So you see now we have another table which is a relationship with some constraints. Okay, it's got a primary key that is its primary key from this table, but later we have some fields which make reference to fields in the other tables, and this we do if you remember from SQL, and this is the same in MySQL if you remember, when you have like a constraint we should do it like this. All right, now I have to just update the table, update the new table I have created, update the database, and insert all the things I have. Okay, so we have here the database. Good. Yeah. So now I can make some inserts in our person game and say, for instance, that new vertical document tab, person game. I say, for instance, that I want to say, for instance, that Mike plays poker and chess. Yes. So I have to say here person ID of Mike. Remember we use the IDs of Mike. Okay, plays poker. Poker is got the ID 1, so this is my first relationship. Person ID Mike also plays chess, which is 2. All right. Now Bob plays mahjong and poker. No, so Bob ID plays mahjong and Bob also plays poker, which is the 1. Okay, You see the auto increments. Also here it will be like doing all my relationships. This I am doing now manually, but as I said before, it's gonna be have to do it. We're gonna be working with that and making the inserts and the delete the inserts and the selects and all that stuff from our source code. We will see work. We are doing this to know when you are in your source code to know what's happening in here, and to, in some case, you have to in 1 minute come and modify whatever directly in the database, so you will you know how to do it. All right. Good. Let's see now what can we do now. Well, the next thing we can try to do is to query, to make queries to the database. Remember, by the way, there are some refresh. If you do some changes, there are some refresh button here. Usually, sometimes when you're doing from code, you have to refresh the. Well, you can refresh here all the SQLs, or you can do the refresh to the server level or to the database level. We have here the database. If I want to refresh just this database, so it will be here, or the tables. All right. So in this database, I want to query some things from here. Yeah, it's quite easy. I just right-click here, and I can say new query. And I open, and it opens a window query where I can say, so select, I can execute SQL queries like select all from DBO. Remember always to use DBO, because the name of the tables, okay, are usually always DBO person. Okay, let's execute it, and we have the results down here. Right, we can do queries more complex, like join or inner join DBO DBO dot person game on DBO dot person dot ID equals DBO dot person game dot person ID. All right, so just execute it, and it will be doing the join of these two games. So now I have game ID, and if I join now this with the person game, so it will be like another inner join. Yep, like inner join. Okay, all this I want to join it now with the other table, DBO dot games on. Okay, and I'm gonna use from this table with like well, I have to use the DBO dot the person games table, person game dot game ID equals DBO games dot ID. Well, this is SQL, you know what. And I'm going to, I'm going to execute it, and you see I have here my Garcia, blah, blah. I just want now these columns, okay, name of game, the first name, last name, and name of the game. So I select the first name, last name of game. Yep, and I have my results here. Yeah, my Garcia is poker, Mike Garcia is playing chess, Bob Throne is playing mahjong, and Bob Throne is playing poker. Okay, just simple examples to see that you can query. You can save the query in a file. Okay, if you want, you just click and you save the query or SQL. But in this case, I'm not gonna save it. We don't need it. Okay, and another thing we're gonna be having to know or using is how to get the connection string to a database, which is we have in our local server. And for that, connection strings, I have a video for you also about, specifically about connection strings, but it's what we are going to need, okay, to connect to a database from our server, besides the credentials. So it's going to be the connection strings. And to see the connection strings I have for this database, this that we have to use, we can go to here to the properties of the database. See, I am in databases, my database I just created, not in tables, not in the server, in databases, properties, and the properties, well, you see a lot of properties here, and one of them is the connection string, you see. And here I have the connection string to this that I should use to that database with this, or at least the connection string that has been used to connect to here. Well, no need to get into more detail here. All right, just state that a connection string, is a set of data that we are going to have to use in our code. Okay, that is going to be it's going to have a data source, which is going to be the server, okay, the location of the server. This is if the server is the local machine, and the name of the database. No, sorry, the name of the server. Okay, and if the server would be in the internet or in Azure, for instance, this would be like HTTP colon / and the URL of the server, or an URL. Okay, the address of the server and the name of the server. Initial catalog is the database I want to connect with, okay, and then the parameters here will change. Okay, here we are using integrated security. That means we don't need to use our credentials, the username and the password to connect to the server. We are using, because it is inside Windows, and we are using our Windows credentials to connect to the server. But if we are connecting to a database outside this machine, or we want to use the credentials of the server, of a user in the server, we should write here the password and the username, and to connect to the server, and then the other ones are like trust server certificate, or like some other parameters. All right, I told you, you just to know now that these are some is a string that has some information for the application on how to connect to which server to connect, and which initial catalog, and how to connect to it. As I said, it's got a full video about connection strings. Okay, but what I want you to know is where to get it from. All right, or where to get it from, at least a sample, or at least the data source and the initial catalog. Later we will see how to do it if we want to connect with another credentials or with another options. Good. And well, here I think here you have the data file in case you need it, the database, the server, and here the user we have connected with also. Okay, this is to build a connection string from scratch. You can use this information, and I think that's well, the data file was the database what I said before, where the database is stored, which is in the file I said before. Okay, in SQL personal, okay, person games MDF, where we went before here, like person games, in case we want to need it. Right. Good. So the properties of the what properties of the database we can use. And finally, I wanted to show you that, we can do a lot of things. Most of the thing we can do it from the SQL Server Object Explorer here in Visual Studio, but there are some things like retrieving a backup of restoring a backup of a database that in SQL Server that we can't do from here, or any other things. And for that, we are going to use a tool from Microsoft, which is the SQL Server Management Studio. For that, you will have to go SQL Server Management Studio and download it. It's a free tool. You go here, you download. I have already downloaded, okay, and install it. It's a pretty big file, all right, but it's okay. I already have it, okay, but so you just have to download it, and let's see how to install it, okay. So this is an application, okay, a front end, a graphical interface. Is like Workbench in MySQL, a graphical front end to access the database server and to be able to create data, like the same like we have been doing in Visual Studio, or the same you do in whoops, I need to restart to complete the setup of SQL Server. Okay, I will restart. The same that you've been doing in with MySQL, if you have been using Workbench, or if you are using PHP MyAdmin. Okay, it's just a visual interface, visual graphical interface, just to interact with the server and do all the actions you need in a database server, including the things we can't do with Visual Studio. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. I'm going to restart for this to install, and I will restart it again. See you in a minute. So I'm back here again. I just restarted. I'm going to proceed to install. I don't know, maybe it needed some upgrade. Okay, I just install. The installation process is just by the default process. No special option we have to check for. Again, I repeat, this is just a client to access the server which is already installed and that has been installed by Visual Studio. Okay, that is SQL Server Express. You see it is a version of SQL Server 2016. You don't need to install a SQL Server, MicroSQL Server modern version. We just with that version that it comes with Visual Studio by default, we are fine to do everything we need to do. In Azure, you have SQL Server, the last version, I think 2019, and that is more powerful and more but has all the characteristics, all the options of a deployment server or a business server, but with just for developing purposes, you just with that is enough with what we have. Okay, and this is just a front end to access all the options from the server that is already installed. Good, so when the setup is complete, we can close, and then we can come here and say SQL Server, okay, Management Studio version 18. We just run it, and well, it detects when it starts. Okay, it detects connect to the server. It's just the wizard to connect to the server. It launches by default the wizard to connect to the server. If not, okay, we have always here the Object Explorer. Sorry, my mouse is making tricks on me. Okay, I say connect, okay, to a database engine, all right, and you say a database engine and server name. Okay, it's detecting that it's already installed here in the local machine a server like the same one we are using in Visual Studio, but otherwise, okay, we could browse for more, and we are servers, okay, or in the local or on the network, okay, we will see that's in the network something, but okay, if there were more servers in this machine installed, they will appear here, but okay, from now we cancel. Okay, authentication, we will use Windows authentication like we've been doing, okay, but we could use any other kind of authentication to the server, and this is the username we are doing. This is like the connection string we are going to use from this client to the server, which is running in the background. I just say connect, and okay, it appears here, my local server. You see, it's more or less the same that I have in Visual Studio. Okay, I have the person's game database, I have the tables, okay, the same tables that I can I can do some other things. Okay, for instance, select top, do other selects automatically. Okay, I can do the selects. I can query a new query. Okay, I can do the selects here, or write the selects, or whatever things, and that's it. One of the things I can do from here is to restore databases or backups of databases that I have. For instance, the one particularly we are gonna do is we're gonna use is the Advanced Works database sample from AdventureWorks. Sorry, AdventureWorks sample. Okay, we can download databases. There are a lot of places to download sample databases to work with, and we will use this one and just to test. And we have to download. We're going to download the lightweight version of AdventureWorks lightweight 2016. Okay, version 2016. Remember, we have version 2016. I will just save the backup in downloads, for instance. Yes. And when it's downloaded, I have, okay, here, restore database, the option, okay, and I say, from a device, in a device, I will say, backup media type, it's from a file, I add the file I have in users, update downloads, okay, the AdventureWorks LT 2016 back, yep. And I say, okay, this is my backup media. It say, okay, it's a valid backup, and so please restore it. I restore it. I do like okay, and I have here a new database, yeah, with like all its tables and already filled with lots of data to play with. For instance, this is like a typical database of a store with products and customers and sales personnel and orders. And for instance, okay, let's select the product table, and you see there's a lot of products to play with an image and a lot of data, and we will use this one to do some tests and some proofs. So we use SQL Server Management Studio, download it, install it, and do this importing or restoring of the database to see if it works. And by the way, now you see that this database is also is in the server, and these are just clients that access the server as the ones we are gonna build from Windows, from our source code. But the server, if it's here, okay, it's here. It's here. The database is here because it's the same server. We are accessing the same server from two different places. So like as we usually do, we have the tables also here, and we can now use it from here. So it's like view data, and max rows 1000 is the same data here. All right, but from here we can do some more things than from Visual Studio, but we will usually be using Visual Studio. All right, I think that's all for now. Hope it's not too difficult for you, and if in doubt, just post to the forum some questions. And please don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video if you liked it. Thank you. Bye-bye.